Ladies and gentlemen, Hell22 here. The man to my right, you know, is Mermaider.
What's up, guys?
We are back again for another Sorrow Eternal interview. Really excited about this one tonight. We've got Jarkko. He's the bass player from Brymir. He's going to answer some questions for us.
Alright.
Hi, this is Jarkko Niemi from Brymir, and I'd like to thank the guys from the Sorrow Eternal blog for this unique and amazing interview opportunity. For all those interested, I play the bass, handle the backing growls, and I'm one of the lyricists and songwriters of the band.
From the beginning, what inspired you to become musicians? What bands made you want to pick up an instrument and play? And more than that, what got you into metal?
Well, the reasons of course vary between each individual band member, so I can speak truthfully only for myself. For the others, it's more or less guesswork. But anyway, I took up my instrument originally as a part of 7th grade music lessons. I really hadn't seen music as an option for a hobby before that, but once I picked up the bass for the first time, something must have clicked and I knew I was hooked. As for what bands would be worth mentioning, then that's a different question entirely. The ones that got me into metal in the first place were mainly the ones that inspired me to play as well. Namely and mainly, these were Nightwish, Children of Bodom, Ensiferum and Dimmu Borgir. Good to remember though, this was the early stuff which was contemporary at the time. I sort of got alienated from some of them later on. For the other guys I can only really guess. A couple of us like Joona and Janne have been playing music since they were kids. I think that Joona got his metal inspiration from the original Ensiferum albums. Janne though is still a complete mystery with me. The first time he really played any metal in the real sense was with us, I think. Before that, and even today, he's quite a fun, party, funky music kind of guy. Sean, if I remember correctly, was inspired by Randy Rhoads in his early days. For Victor, I remember the main early influences being Morbid Angel and puritanical euphoric misanthropia era Dimmu Borgir. Sami, I think, has never really talked about that stuff, so there too is still a mystery.
The album title, Breathe Fire to the Sun, so powerful. Where did the concept and title come from, and what were the influences behind the writing of the album?
Thanks for the compliments. That's a really complicated question and a long story when I think about it. I really had to sort this one out beforehand so I can give a good account of everything. So anyway, here goes. The story behind the concept of the album is quite fun in a sense, since the whole storyline just popped up from the individual songs during the process when I tried to think what would be the best order of the tracks. It was really something quite spontaneous, but after I realized what we might make of this, there still were quite a lot of things to polish. But anyway, as you might know, the album is divided into 4 so-called chapters that story-wise are linked together chronologically. But in practice, the songs and their lyrics were originally written in a very different order and a huge lot of time between them, without any combining lyrical framework behind them. We just had these certain things we wanted to write about, like freedom, making your stand and choices, responsibility, the environment, and naturally for metal music there was death and destruction as well. I don't know how well you know the lyrics and other text on the album, but though we originally didn't have any combining links between the songs, I just sort of realized that we could form a really cool backing story just by clumping the different songs in groups of contexts. First part of the album has these dreamlike images in the words, so we made it into a prologue-like chapter. The second chapter deals with actual actions and thoughts that relate to one's own purpose and the likes, so that followed the visionary dreams. After that, a clump of reminiscing songs with allusions to past times and their wisdoms, and finally a culmination in death, with a speck of hope added just to the finale. It really became something more than the sum of its parts, I think. As for the influences concerning the lyrics and themes themselves, I've always been into philosophical and psychological thought since high school, and I wanted to incorporate some of those ideas into the songs that I wrote. Particularly the problems concerning the limits of our physical selves and the problems concerning individual free will and its limits in influence in society. Victor also had similar motives in his mind, yet in a more brutal, straightforward sense. and dealing especially with societal matters. We made a good team inspecting each other's work, and I like to think we succeeded in making a good mix of straightforward and easily understandable segments on one hand, and then the more cryptic details that take longer to crack on the other. The title, Breathe Fire to the Sun, is a reference to this sort of underlying concept of driving life force, that no matter how low the odds and whatever the hopelessness, life fights the inevitable and, tries to breathe fire into a dying sun.
The musicianship on the album is stellar, but even more so, it's really diverse. You cover all the bases, from the typical guitar, bass, and drums to the more atmospheric use of keyboards. How important was it to integrate all of those sounds? And what was the key to making them all work together?
Well, like always, the key to making things work together is practice, practice, and more practice. But seriously though, originally the whole integration of all these different styles, themes, and moods came from our own ambition as writers. We just aspire to create the most epic and, in a way, perfect metal that we can. The mix comes out naturally when each individual member wants to put his instrument's best into the music. Especially since we all participate in the songwriting process in one way or another, there is even more motivation for everyone to try to make his contribution matter and shine out, so to speak.
It's always interesting to know what metal musicians are listening to when they aren't on stage or in the studio. So what bands do you find yourself stuck on?
I personally listen to quite a large variety of music in my free time. All kinds of different genres offer interesting ideas on melodies, rhythms, and structures. So I frequently listen to all kinds of stuff, from Type O Negative to classical music to Behemoth to Noise and to Nightwish. But naturally, as a metalhead, my all-time favorites are definitely metal. The ones I keep coming back to are probably Wintersun's amazing debut album, which always manages to blow my mind every time I hear it. Then there's my first love in folk metal in Moonsorrow's Voimasta ja kunniasta, or the Of Strength and Honor album. Their latest album, The Varjoina kuljemme kuolleiden maassa, or As Shadows We Walk in the Land of the Dead, was also just incredible, so that's been in the spin quite a few times.
As your touring plans unfold, are there any bands, big or small, that you'd like to share a stage with? And have you played any shows in the past that stand out as being memorable?
Of the possible dream come trues when it comes to stage partners, there is definitely and always Immortal from Norway, since their stuff has been for each of our members quite important in our development and movement towards more extreme metal. Then there might be Wintersun and others that we all really like and look up to. The most memorable shows we've had also relate to our idols, so to speak. We've had the privilege to share the stage with truly some of the great ones in our genre, namely Ensiferum, Korpiklaani and Moonsorrow. All these gigs stand out clearly from the rest. They were just awesome, and they gave us the chance to find out how nice people our teenage idols really are.
So I know you guys can't see us right now, but we've been sitting here with our fingers crossed. Any chance that you guys will make it to the US anytime soon?
Well, we're sitting fingers crossed here too. It of course would be awesome to get to the States and basically anywhere and everywhere in the world, but it all comes down to the gig bookers and organizers. We don't really have the money to fund such a tour ourselves, and without good contacts, the expenses are pretty high for such a new band, for any organizer to get excited about. But we're definitely coming over there the first chance we get. You don't have to worry about that. Slowly but surely we're working our way up.
So how do you think social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and MySpace have affected your career? Are they an important way for you to reach to your fans across the world, or just a fun way to connect to others?
For such a small band as us, it is definitely important, because without such medias, people outside the borders of our home country would have probably never heard of us. It is definitely also very good fun, since it gives us the possibility to really answer directly to a fan that has a question, and give thanks directly and personally to all the supporters. It's very rewarding like that.
The biggest topic in music today continues to be downloading, or piracy. What are your thoughts on the downloading of music? Do you think it's a major issue, or is it an effective way to spread your message?
Well, personally, it's sort of depressing to think how much of the effort in making our albums goes to waste when people just download the audio files and listen to a track or two. All the lyrics and concepts are left pretty vague, and for instance our debut has quite a lot of stuff there besides even the lyrics. But of course I can't deny how great it is that someone who could never get his or her hands on a physical copy of our album can still enjoy the music, no matter how far away they are. It's a double-edged sword in that sense. I myself have never been into downloading, since I value the package as a whole so much, and am in the first place in the privileged position to get an album's physical copy.
In the United States, metal isn't considered to be a major force. Yet. Instead, our population is stuck on hip-hop, country, and recycled pop music. What are things like in the Finnish music scene? Is metal the accepted genre of choice?
Well, if you asked me, it's starting to be so much more than just accepted. There's been a literal boom after bands like Bodom and Nightwish exploded into fame. In a way, it is awesome that so many people rejoice in this sort of awesome music, but on the other hand, for new bands, it's a huge issue of overproduction almost. There are so many struggling bands that all play really well, but you need something extraordinary to make it through the competition. And also, the audiences back here are often very slow to accept a new band. But it's all good effort and rewarding as well, since you know that every new fan you make is something you really had to work hard for. It really forces you to reach your potential.
And lastly, what are your plans for the future of Brymir? What can we expect to see in the years to come?
Right now, we're busy trying to book new gigs as soon and as many as possible. Simultaneously, we're also frantically writing new material for the next album. You'll be seeing, or actually hearing, in the coming years more epic and even more diverse true metal music. We'll never give you anything but our best.
So we want to thank Jarkko again for answering some questions for us. We really appreciate it, and we hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did.
Thank you once again very much for this interview. It's been really fun, and these kinds of interviews are something quite special. Stay metal.